There you go.
Hello and welcome back to Forever Rugby here on Forever Sports. Um, Welcome to everyone. We can already see the comments are kicking off. Welcome back, guys. And of course, it's quarterfinal time here at the Rugby World Cup 2023, and it is so damn exciting. We can't wait. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Carl Usher once again. How's it, Carl? How are you doing?
Not too bad. A little bit tired, but I'm surviving. How are you?
The man's working off some painkillers from a knee surgery, so let's all just wish him well. Right, guys, as you can see, we've already put the team up for you. I'm sure everyone's already had a look at it. If you haven't, this is the team. We'll be going through it in a little bit, doing a little bit of analysis, going through what we consider a surprise. So please do let me know right off the bat. If you are in the comments, let me know what you think was probably the surprise inclusion. If not, please do check us out on Boyle Sports as well. Check us out on BitDefender. Those are our fantastic sponsors. They are the ones who make this all possible. I'm going to add our next candidate, Mr. Dan Skoltz. Welcome,
There he is.
Dan.
Morning,
Welcome.
morning,
Dan's
lads.
fashionably late, so that's okay. Um, Dan, we were just chatting about the Springbok lineup and what a fantastic lineup it is. There are a couple of surprises, which I'm sure we will get to in a second. But what I've just asked everyone in the chat is to please put down what they consider to be the surprise inclusion. And let's just get straight into it, gents. So, Carl, I'll start with you right off the bat. What is the first name that catches your eye in that Springbok starting lineup?
I mean, obviously, I think it'll be no surprise if everyone's, surprised that Reinach is the preferred 9, not because he doesn't deserve it, but because the potential problems it could bring about in say mid game with kicking wise. But he's had a great tournament so far, so he does deserve to be there.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, Cobus Reinach is probably the surprise one, simply because of the insistence of that Springbok management for quite some time to stick to Faf de Klerk, and who hasn't been terrible at all. He's been rather fantastic actually, but Cobus has just been that good. So perhaps there's a lineup that they're seeing, we should say rather, so perhaps it's a combination that they're seeing or a matchup that they're seeing that we can't quite. Dan, I'll go back over to you. I'll go straight to the bench because I think that's quite an important one. We've obviously decided to opt with that 5-3 split. Can you think of any reasons why that might have happened? Do you think that was the right move?
I think it's super interesting because, I mean, our last big game was a 7-1, right? So a completely different conversation. You know, no Villy. Obviously, we didn't have Andre fit at that stage. So it's big, and just where we might have thought that the 6-2 was our brand, I think maybe our brand is actually just we don't know what we're going to do and just prepare for the unexpected, which is what it is. I mean, 5-3 is a very typical rugby split, you know, naturally, but you don't often see the box go for it, especially, you know, given that the recent big games, that's been our differentiating factor. But maybe they're seeing a bit more opportunity in our backline to exploit. Yeah, but I think it's really exciting, and I think I'm glad to see Willie there. He'll give us a couple more options, and I think he'll be really good on attack. It's just that we still have that firepower in the forwards without that extra man.
100%. Right, so I'll get to a couple of the comments. Thank you guys for dropping them through. Please keep them coming. I'll try to get it to as many as I can. I see Currie saying Curve starting as a surprise. Of course, 100%. I would agree with you. 5-3 split is shocking. Yeah, I suppose as Springbok supporters, we have come to expect the unexpected when it comes to a bench. For us to go a bit traditional is a shock in and of itself. Didi says, I'm sorry, but that's not our strongest team. Jason G, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. He says, why do we keep on playing Jesse Creel and Damien Dialendi? Doesn't deserve to be in the team. I'll be happy with Andre Hesteas and Kanan Moody. So we'll get to that in a second, Jason. Chris Boss says they should have put Kanan Moody on the bench instead ahead of Villy. Villy has been pathetic so far this World Cup. All right, some very strong comments coming out there, of course. If you haven't already seen, there's also been the France team announced, which we will compare those lineups as well and do our very best. Another couple more. Leslie Roux says Pollard should have started. No Moody Esterhazen. Danette says good morning. Goeiemorgen, Danette. And Manus Ferreira says if we want to lose on Sunday, we should then start running rugby. All right, gents, it's a lot to get through. So let's start right at the beginning with a power front row. Right off the bat, Carl, we see Stephen Kitzel, Bongio Manambi, and Frans Malherbe. What is the surprise there for you?
To be honest, I'm not surprised, considering they have to work out how to shift Winnie Antonio, who is, I think, the second heaviest player in this competition, or right now the heaviest because of Tameifuna going home. It's no surprise. I mean, either of their front rows would do a job, but I think this is probably their preferred one to deal with that. And then just have some solid impact off the bench. It's going to be massive. Those are two heavy backs. It's going to be a big battle at scrum.
Yeah. With the 5-3, and maybe it's not exactly the same for props, but maybe if anything, these guys can probably have a little bit more match fitness than both Vincent and Ox, and I think they might take it a little bit further, more to the 50th minute rather than the traditional maybe 43rd or so that they currently are sitting in and around. I mean, we even saw Frans Malherbe come off, I think, in the 55th versus Ireland, which I didn't think worked very well, mostly because there was a staggered approach with the props as opposed to a full split. But I think our two strongest props, and obviously Bongi's got the caps under the belt. He's the guy. It's going to be when that sub happens, that's going to be super interesting to see, because I don't think we've ever. I mean, obviously Dion Fourie pairing with most props is a new pairing, but we haven't seen, I don't think, Ox and Vincent very often either. So that's a new one on the eyes, and I mean, individually we definitely, I think most South African supporters will back them both.
Do you think that there is often we go into these matches, especially with our front row and our pack, saying that there's going to be a form of domination, but this France pack is arguably the best in the world next to the Springbok pack as well. Is there an argument to be made that we would simply be happy at scrum time, especially, to be winning our own ball in this type of a match?
I'll let you take it.
Oh, can you repeat that? Sorry, I was just sorting out.
I'll go. So I think, to an extent, I don't think we have once did in our scrum pack. I think they are all getting a little older and not necessarily less powerful, but maybe other teams have caught up to the level that we were at, particularly at that last World Cup where it felt like we were getting penalties for free. I think the short answer is, even us showing that we've gone with money to start and Polly on the bench, we're not just trying to win with a penalty game and a 3-point game, right? So I think
you can.
I think we're clearly not going for a very traditional approach, and we don't see us being able to just kick them over. So we're going with another approach. With that said, I think they're going to fully expect to win all of their scrums, and they're going to want to put a statement down and win others, because if we still have a semi-final and final, if we win this, if people start seeing cracks there, then it's going to be something that will definitely be exploited.
All right. As we head on to that lock period, of course, we see Eben Etzebeth, there's no surprises there, and Franco Mostert. Again, for me, Carl, no surprises there. I see a comment here from Agai Imase. Again, apologies if I've mispronounced. Carl, he says 6-2 split, Klein in for Villy, then Faf and Pollard to start. The point that I want to focus on there is the mention of Jean Klein. I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that they haven't gone with that extra bit of firepower off the bench in Jean Klein, and I think that he's been really good off the bench. Other than the starting lineup, would you say that we needed some reinforcements in that department?
I think they're in a bit of a hard spot with this one, because they have to find a way to counter France's backs, because they've been absolutely lethal, and I think they're not able to do a 6-2. I think they have to have three or more backs just to try and counteract this this France team, because they are really good. The only thing, like, France obviously will be depending on their lineup, but I don't know. I don't see. Look, you could potentially change Villy for Kane and Moody, but I don't think you could take a back off for a forward. I think they need
No, I agree fully, 100%. I mean, it is a little surprising. I mean, this is not a bad team at all, but I guess we've gotten so used to that firepower off the bench, though, that it's caught us all a little bit by surprise. Right, so we see here a couple of their welcome back, Matthew Dixon. See Andrea Daleave saying, will Damien kick in the first half to polls if Marnie starts missing? Scalzi, we'll get to that in a second, but I think my first answer is probably no. I think so long. Yeah, actually no. Sorry, I'd obviously, of course, with Faf out. Do you think that that's the possibility? Do you think Damien is officially backup kicker? Let's just say, well, I mean, Pollard's coming off the bench already, so I mean, is it really a question?
First of all, I'd be surprised if they didn't have kicks in the first half for Manny to give up that tee, and he would have to miss everything pretty much from in front, you know. And if that is the case, sure, why not give it to Damien for a kick that's in front? But I mean, you know, they've been difficult kicks that he's lost out on, but I'd be very surprised if I see Damien taking it over, particularly because, I mean, he kicked in the Romania game and he had a lot of, you know, under the poles type of kicks, but other than that, he's not coming in with a lot of match pressure from a kicking perspective. So especially when you're changing kickers, I think you kind of want someone who's done that. Faf clearly didn't really mind that pressure, and I think because he's not known as a kicker, whereas Damien, I think, is actually known as more of a kicker than Faf. So I think maybe there'll be a little more pressure. But short answer, no, I don't think Damien will be taking that over.
All right. 100%. I mean, that makes sense to me. Carl, let's just take you back to those loose forwards for a second. Of course, we've got Captain Fantastic, Siya Khaleesi, Pieter-Steph du Toit, and Dwayne Vermeulen makes, I suppose, I guess, another unexpected return to that starting number 8 position. He'd been played a flank before. He'd been kept out of the starting 15 before. Do you think that there was a case for Jasper to have retained his starting spot?
Yes, I think at least in the forwards, it looks like they've gone right. Okay, this French side is regardless of who they throw out, is going to be class. So maybe we should go for a bit more experience over youth. But I mean, look, you're not exactly losing out a lot in Vermeulen. Although not even having, I suppose, not having Visa on the bench is interesting. But then you want someone on the bench who can cover more than, I suppose, just number 8, because Visa's a specialist number 8. So having Kwaka Smith makes sense, because you basically got a multi-talented back and forward almost. But no, it's an interesting call. I'm not surprised because of how good Vermeulen is even at his age, but I didn't expect it. Put it that way. It's an interesting call. It's a really interesting call.
It feels like there's like a missing link in our reserves. You know, there's usually a Van Staden or Jean Klein or you know, even Vermeulen on the bench. There's that extra person that you'd be like, okay, when they come on, you know. Whereas with the amount of forwards replacing, it's more blocking. It feels like it's that typical replacement, which is just coming in to fill what the other person was doing and that their legs aren't allowing them to do. Whereas the Boks made it like we're coming on, but we're actually elevating it. You know, we're actually taking it much further.
100%. I mean, and to me, this is a situation where, and I've seen these comments, and I 100% agree with everyone in the comments that there's been a lot of sort of concern about this 5-3 splits. But I think it's exactly as you say. This is actually probably a good thing, that we are able to adapt to this. That we are saying to them, listen, we don't need 6 big boys or 7 big boys on this bench to take you out. We are focusing on an issue that we have at the moment, which seems to be that kind of goal kicking issue. So they've got Andre in there for that. It's
you think that's why they picked Andre?
I do, honestly, I really do. I do think that he's there for Marnie Crumble. I don't think he's there to replace Marnie, to add extra impetus, because we do know that Marnie, in terms of the ability to play make, for me at least, he is better. And so I can't see much reason why else we would have Andre in there. That's my opinion. I think that if that they're looking towards, if it gets towards that crunch time and we need someone with a cooler, perhaps more experienced head on him, that's why Andre is there. But maybe I'll be crucified in the comments. Maybe everyone disagrees with me, but that's what it is. The Vili pick we'll get to in a second. I'm not too sure about that one, but I'm sure Carl will have opinions on it. And I see the comments there that this is actually a 4-4 split with Kwaku on the bench. That was actually one of the first comments that came out when we saw this team as well, because he is just that versatile. Albert van Lingen says if Mani kicks well, Pollard won't even come on. I think he probably comes on, but if he's on song, I do think that he probably stays on 65, 70 minutes instead of 50 minutes. Or 55, I think that's really the plan. Okay, so Carl, let's look a little bit further than this. Again, we've got, of course, the surprise package in Kobus Reinach and the combination with Mani Libbok, and that's the combination we like to work with. Why do you think Faf's lost his starting spot?
I think Kobus is just better at because if you look at how the Boks play now, they're playing a bit differently to how we're used to seeing the Boks play. They are running more than kicking now, whereas it was the opposite beforehand. And I just think Reinach is a better runner with the ball. He's more agile, far quicker. And it's just different game plans, I reckon, now.
Dan, do you think that there may have been a matchup in mind that they had? Of course, we don't know yet whether Dupont will be starting or not. Do you think that there was a particular matchup that they had?
Maybe in off the fringes. Obviously, as Carl said, Reinach's much quicker and can maybe try and nullify a bit of that Dupont speed and just kind of firepower. But I mean, from a internal matchups or link-ups point of view, it's actually the opposite of what I think everyone would expect, because we came to know the Reinach Pollard combination from playing club rugby overseas, and then even combining in the British and Irish Lions series. That was very familiar, and obviously kind of Faf is anyone's pairing, so that's less important. But we haven't seen too much of the Kobus Mani one, but I don't think it's an issue. But yeah, I think it's definitely, as Carl said, it's much more Bok game plan, trying to nullify what they're going to throw at us from a speed and dynamism point of view than it is I think the link ups with our own players.
All right. And Carl, I'm reading a comment here that just came in from Jason. It says Kobus is to match French speed. He picks and goes. Faf either kicks or passes. It's tactical. 100%, I would agree. And I guess my question to you is, does this tell us a little bit more about whether or not the Springboks are committed to a running game? Because as we know, Faf is perhaps more useful in a mixed type bag game where he is able to put those up and unders under, and he seems to rely on that tactical ability quite a bit. As we know, Kobus loves a running game. So do you think that this is an indication that that's exactly what they plan on doing?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, that's how South Africa's been playing this whole World Cup. They should have beaten Ireland. And I think they might prefer the draw at the end of the day, playing France rather than New Zealand, but they should have beaten Ireland. They left 11 points on the field. And I was just thinking about it. I thinking about how the two nines play. I think Kobus's support lines as a 9 are far better than Faf. If it's going to be a scrum half try off, broken player, wing breaks the line, and then scrum is supporting, it's going to be Kobus. I don't even remember Faf doing many of those. And those are kind of things Aaron Smith does every game. You've got like the best scrum half in the world, Dupont. They do stuff like that, and that's not how Faf kind of plays.
There's a reason Reinach scores hat-tricks in the games that he plays, given their smaller opposition, but he finds himself in those areas, right?
Yeah.
Yep, and absolutely.
Yeah, a hat-trick is not easy to score against anyone, so...
Yeah.
Yep, no, 100%. I agree. So to me, this looks like a commitment to ball in hand play at the moment. Right, so let's move on then a little bit. Of course, money is a huge talking point. We can't avoid this at all. Andre Pollard is on the bench, and the question was always is if we get to playoff time, will Mani start? We've now got our answer. Personally, I think that this is the right call. I hated the idea from the start that we'd been prepping Mani for exactly this, and only to be yanked off at playoff time. I think that doesn't do anybody any favors from a psychological point of view for himself or from a team perspective, because they obviously want Mani to do well, and I think removing him from that situation calls into question a lot of what they had been working on the entire time. But Scalzi, with Pollard on the bench, do you think Mani perhaps has been given that license to play now, that freedom to say, listen, go out there, play your game, don't worry about the kicking, and then you've always got kind of a bit of backup for once?
I think regarding ball in hand, what's really been great to see, which we didn't know if would happen, because when someone like Mani Libbok arrives in a BOK camp, there's excitement, but there's also a bit of a nervousness. It's like, how is this guy going to suit what the Springboks bring to World Rugby, right? It's like, is he just going to be like a Danny Cipriani at England, where you see all the well, like I say that because I feel like he should have played more.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love Danny Cipriani, but he just didn't quite fit that mold. So Mani's been given that license, ball in hand. He's looked, bar none, the most confident player on the pitch when he's there. At least the kicking doesn't seem to affect his running game and ball in hand game. Obviously, I think now that there is, like, in the back of his mind, now he's saying, okay, I probably only need to kick 4 times as opposed to 8, which I think will then maybe calm him down. But I don't even see how it's really affected his ball in hand. It might help his kicking. It's like, okay, I need to get through 4 kicks today. That's all I need to do. I need to get those over maybe 6. But I think, like, license to play 100%. I think I said the exact same thing. Mani has to continue starting. I like Pollard off the bench, calm energy, and can kick a clutch kick if need be.
Yep, absolutely. A couple of comments coming through here. I see Albert van Lingen says, look like Rusty wants to take Libbok's kicking out of the equation, so Libbok has less pressure. 100%. I think that's me and Dan are on the same page there. Bunny Heat says SA should have beat Ireland if Pollard was kicking. Just saying. Carl, I mean, yeah, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that Barney has been struggling with his kicking. But there's an argument to be made that, yes, we may have got the kicking out of Pollard had he been around, but we don't know if we would have got the same general play out of Pollard. A fit Pollard, sure, but a Pollard having just been rushed into the team, maybe not. So yeah, I was just trying to keep up with these comments here for a second. Let's see.
I'm interested to know how many tries the Springboks score in the last 15 minutes in general, most games, because maybe that's it. It's like, if we score tries, from what I remember, we're not really much. We're not late scorers. I feel like we early middle game scorers, and that's when Money's going to be playing, right? So maybe that's just also a part of the exploiting. And then at the end of games, it feels like, okay, crunch time. Maybe it's a maul, in which case it doesn't matter who your fly off is, or it's just kicking for posts. But yeah, sorry, Reza.
No, 100%. I mean, Carl, I guess the last thing I want to say about Barney is simply the fact that a couple of comments here saying that, of course, this is a bold move to include Barney, right? But there comes a point where we can no longer pad Barney. It's do or die for him at this point in terms of his kicking. And they've made a decision to back him. So I don't think there is a right or a wrong call. I think that everyone's kind of justified in what they're saying. We could have perhaps gone with the safe play and started 100, right? But
this is the thing, is like it's being pitched as a bold call to pick Marnie. I don't think so. I think it's a bold call if they pick Pollard, and there's no justification really to pick Pollard because he isn't the same kind of player. The Boks have changed their game plan to fit how good Marnie is, you can't then go, oh, you know what? Nah, we're not going to do that anymore because Pollard's back. I think in terms of general play, take kicking away, Marnie is the better player. Not as experienced, obviously, but I think, I don't know if and I think also that's why Faf isn't starting. If Pollard started, Faf would probably have started. I think it would be stupid not to back Marnie now. And say you got through, I think it would be very detrimental if you hadn't backed him and you get through. So I don't see it as a surprise. I'd be very surprised if he didn't start.
Yeah, look, I'm Team Marnie all the way over here, and I'm sure most of us at Forever Sports actually are. But right, he deserves his start. I really do think so. Right, so Dan, to move on to Damien Delendy and Jesse Creel, of course. Again, I know that people aren't happy about it, but it's not really a surprise, is it?
No, I think they're creeping up on Jean de Villiers and Jacques Farie's record, I think. If not surpassed it, they're somewhere around there in centre pairings ever for the Springboks.
Sorry, Danny, you have to repeat that. You broke up there a little bit.
That's okay. No, I was just saying that they played so much together, and obviously we don't see that dynamism that we see potentially, and little, piece of creativity that perhaps we get a little bit more out of Kane Moody and Andre Esterhuizen. But it's also a Bok management that, like I'd say, bar money, it's gone back to its roots. I mean, this is an old team. You did not that many new people in and amongst the mix. People who we were incredibly excited to see going into the World Cup, Grant Williams, the Kane and Moody's, even with Dwayne coming back in, that's just kind of a show how much we are kind of going with that experience and can do, with, again, money being that exception. So yes, it's not the most exciting maybe offensively, but I think defensively for that French back line, as Carl said, like, they're nuts. Like, and you're gonna have to have your wits about you. And I think even just from a work perspective, like, those two are gonna leave it all out. I think they're there to do it. Like, could Andreas Dezen be there? Sure. Like, I don't think that weakens us at all. But I'm not surprised by the pick.
Okay, 100%. Guys, in the comments, if you wouldn't mind, there were a couple of comments earlier about the centre pairing. Of course, I can't go back now and check them all out, but now's your time. Give us an opinion on the centre pairing in particular. And just remember that we are not punting one way or another. We are pundits. We are trying to play devil's advocate and ask the hard questions that everyone wants to know. So yeah, well, while we've got to play both sides a little bit as well. So Cole, I guess, yeah, I mean, Dan's basically said everything that I feel about the centre pairing. I'm not particularly unhappy anymore. I think that Jesse Creel will do a job. I do kind of miss the idea of a replacement centre, specialist centre, I should say, in our bench. Would you have liked to see perhaps Caden Moody or even Andre take that bench spot for perhaps a Billy?
You couldn't. If you look at how the team is set up, you lose a centre, you've lost a fullback as well. Because if you lose a centre, Damien has to go into the centres, Villy has to come on. It's your only option. I wouldn't put Pollard at 12 when he hasn't played there ever for the Boks. So I think that's been a more forced thing than anything. But also in a team where you're looking to not kick to not try to win by kicking to poles, Villy's not a bad person to have in, considering his try assist, like, just ratio in general. It's a stat that you definitely will want against France. Him coming on, assisting a couple of tries is what you're going to need. And I know I'm probably one of his smallest fans. I've been bashing him a bit during this World Cup, and then every time I do, he starts doing some wild shit. So it's really annoying. But I think Kane. I honestly think Kane and Moody's is not on the bench because you have to have Villy LaRue with that setup.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, the exclusion of Lukhanyo, do we expect to see him at all during this World Cup? Should we get any further in it?
It depends how serious they are about playing Kanan at 13, and it seems like they are. So I don't think so. You might see him if there's a third, fourth playoff, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, Dan.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan. We called. I mean, we called Lukhanyo, and everyone got very excited. And in the back of my head, unfortunately, I always had this thing going: is it too soon? And it seems that South Africans, we've gotten so used to the miraculous recovery after Khaleesi's story that perhaps it was expected that he would just slot back into the side. But I mean, Dan, is it maybe it was a bit of a wasted spot? Could someone else have been recalled to have strengthened the side if the honest truth is that he simply just isn't ready to play?
I definitely wouldn't call it a wasted spot, but I also don't buy that the Boks have brought him back to. I don't see him starting any World Cup games. Between now and then the World Cup, if JC gets injured, we have another 13 who's capable. Put Canan Moody in there, he's ready. If there is an injury, what they're saying is Lukhanyo can play a game. They don't want to bring who's the next 13 that's going to play there. No one that can understand the Boks to the extent that Lukhanyo can. They essentially what the management have said is like, we've got a quarterfinal. If our 13 gets injured there, cool. We've got a 13 for the semi-final. If a person gets injured there, then essentially what they've predicted is Lukhanyo will be fit by time for the final to be able to play. And even then maybe we'll try to jig around how many minutes he ends up playing. But I think he's only there for disaster and otherwise very few minutes. So I'm not surprised at all that he's not involved. I'm very happy that he's in the squad. I think he'll bring a good energy. He knows it. Everyone's familiar with him. He's been there, done it. I think second to DuPont in World Rugby Player of the Year, or maybe it was Josh van der Fleer. So he's the guy. He's just not fit.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I don't think he can. I don't think he'll contribute on the pitch unless something unfortunate happens.
And Carl, I guess my main concern, now that I think about it, that there is these French centres that they have to pick from are monsters. There is no doubt about it. They are fantastic. In particular, I think of Jonathan Dunty, and I hope that he's not the one starting, because I think if anyone's going to test these two in defence, Dielendi and Creel, it's going to be him. He's just so big, powerful, and dynamic. To flip to the other side of the coin, who do you expect to see from that French side come up against these two?
I think they'll stick to exactly what's tried and tested. What they've got the best out of, it's going to be Dante and Fiku. They are world class. They're both strong defenders, but very strong attackers as well. And I think it will be. I think they will be solid in defense of Dielendi and Creel. But I think they might even have. They do have more than them in attack. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yep, absolutely. Dan, I guess my last question on the centre pairing is, I see a comment here from Ricky Lowe, which I really liked. It said, I really was shocked when I saw some people thought that was going to play. They just don't understand. Everyone has a role in the team, even if they are not playing, which is a fantastic throwback. And thank you for reminding of that, Ricky. I think specifically of Alton Yankees 2019, where that entire squad had nothing but compliments to say about his involvement with the squad, with his involvement with prepping guys of the ball. So I can imagine that Lukhanyo is sitting there. Perhaps they already know that he's actually not going to play, but he's sitting there prepping those centres, doing homework for them on opposition and all that kind of thing. Do you think that that's the case?
I completely agree. He's there as much of a mentor role as he is actually more of a mentor role and a coach, and but from the lens of I sit where you sit, and we are like, I understand what's going on as a player. I'm not speaking to you as a coach right now, but I can feed information from the coaches to you, and I have no doubt that he's in the leadership meetings, also making and being a part of the tactical conversations and being able to kind of relay that to some of the players on the ground. And, granted, he's speaking to people who have, probably even some of them more caps than them more. But I think when it comes to even like the Caden Moody's, these guys who are new in the setup, having a presence like him around it's calming. And he's not someone to, I think, demand that he gets back in and he's going to try push it. Call him the anti-Farrell, because I feel like Farrell coming back into that England setup is like put them in a very confusing position, and now they have to pick between Ford and Farrell, whereas Lukanya coming back is more of a case of he's there, we're happy he's there, but we don't think he's ready, we're not going to try to rush him in. Sorry to throw Farrell under the bus.
You're not bringing my England rant.
Please do it more. Right, so I'll deal with a comment quickly from Revenger, who's been trying to bait us the entire stream. Obese green clowns from Africa who knocks all balls. We've knocked the balls to 3 World Cups. I mean, we must be doing something right? But yeah, so Carl's just left us briefly. I'm sure he's going to get some meds for his broken knee. But Dan, let's chat a little bit then, and let's move on to, of course, our exciting back three: Jason Colby, Currie Aronson, and Damien Willemse. There are 0 surprises there, right? We can agree on that one. This is probably of all the choices.
No surprises coming into the World Cup. I think we didn't know who would be, if Currie would be the starting wing, and we didn't know if it would be Damien. I think he's put his hand up immensely. We've been waiting for, everyone spoke of the talent that is Damien Willemse and not of the player that is Damien Willemse, and now he's become that player. Really interesting to see when they sub him for Willie, because I don't see anyone really being able to come off for Willie, and if you've got him on the bench, you're going to have to use him, whether it's the 60th minute or closer to the 70th. What does that tactical change look like? I do think Billy will bring a lot off that bench, but as far as the starting lineups, those 3 are as nailed on as anyone in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to spend too much time on those back 3, because to be very honest, everyone knows that they deserve to be there. I see Dion says, imagine seeing Billy coming on at 15, Willemse shifting to 12, and Pollard coming on at 10. Okay. Dialendi coming off potentially due to physicality of the game catching up to him. Okay, an interesting take there.
I don't know if we've ever seen Damien come off due to the physicality of the game, though.
Yeah.
that's new.
I guess we'll see. I don't know, Dion, are you seeing something in DDA's game that maybe shows that he's slowing down in his, well, not his old age, because he's not old, but let me know.
It could happen. A triple split. Imagine you have Willie, Damien, and Pollard, sitting behind the scrum to the left and the right of the scrum. Those are some long passes.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So let's move on to the bench, because that is a big talking point. So please do leave your comments about this bench in particular. We'll deal with it as we close out the show for today. Our bench is Dion Fourie, Oxenchair, Vincent Koch, Achia Steyman, Kwaka Smith, Vat de Klerk, Andre Pollard, and the mercurial Willie leroux. Right. Carl, I'll shoot it right off to you, straight off the bat. Of course, for me, probably the big thing about this is not necessarily the players. It's more about the split that we've gone with. And Willie leroux, they're making space on what is traditionally a 6-2 bench for us, what it seems to be for Willie. Does that surprise you at all? And what do you think is the thinking behind his inclusion?
Well, I think I'm. It's weird. I'm surprised he's there, but not now that I've kind of had a reason to analyze the team and take a look at it. It shows, I think, in a specific attacking intent on this game. Obviously, with his, like I said, with his try assist record, I think that's something that they probably don't want to leave out entirely against this French side, especially if you end up playing catch-up rugby. That will hopefully, if he has to come on, that will play in your favor. I think, the only place where things get complicated is if a centre goes down. I don't have an issue with the forwards and the missing of one forward. You've gone for a very experienced starting lineup, and we know experience wins World Cups. So I think we might actually see more and more of that as we do these playoff games.
Yep, absolutely. And Scotty, if we move back a little bit, of course we've got Kwagga Smith and Deon Fourie, the most mobile. So it seems that there is some backup in that sense, in that we've got two, let's call them specialized fetchers, sitting on that bench, hoping to win us those late penalties. Is that what you're reading into it as well?
Yeah, I think Kwagga probably comes on for Sia, right? That's probably the move. I think that's the most likely. So you kind of lose a bit in Sia, but yeah, I mean, we also very used to see Marco van Staden there, being another fetcher, but those two are more than capable of changing and flipping a game on its head and getting into a tight space in a clutch moment. Both actual flanks, right? So I think it's the case of Deon Fourie playing as if he's a flank until he throws and scrums. So very much to at least you bringing on the dynamism of a flank in that case, which maybe hasn't actually been kind of gone into and how that might help the box enough. Obviously, I think because of the deficit that it leaves in the scrums, but more than capable. And it's the person that's probably least likely to be dropped boss here is actually Kwagga Smith on that bench. I mean, you don't even come to think of who's going to take that jersey. And yeah, I mean, geez, he's been immense.
Absolutely. I mean, if there was a specific award for bench players, I think that Kwagga Smith would 100% be the one who takes it. Carl, one more comment for Willie Leroux. I see Albert van Lingen had said France will fade in the last 10, and that's where Willie will work magic. And we know that Willie thrives in that kind of chaotic environments where the space starts to open up a little bit. But I guess my concern has always been that on occasion, Willie has the ability to fall apart in defense. And against guys like Damien Penaud, possible Jonathan Dante, Jalibert, I mean, these are guys who are scoring. I mean, Penaud has been in ridiculous form, and he's no small boy either. I just worry that on a physical aspect, even that late on in the game, he's going to struggle in defense.
I think the idea that France will fade in the last 10 minutes is probably inaccurate. I think they are a very complete 80-minute side. I think of the two, I would argue that actually South Africa would fade first, just in key positions, age-wise, in the forwards. But I think the game plan is definitely set to play France. You do not want to kick battle with France because they'll either beat you in the kick battle or they will run you ragged. And so, again, the selections of Reinach at 9 and keeping Marnie makes total sense. And I would agree with you, Reza, that Willie Leroux has self-implosion moments, and he's shown it during this World Cup, even against very simple teams. I think he was decisively average against Romania. I think it'll be interesting. I don't think they'll bring him on unless they have to.
All right, great.
Wow.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit. I think that Oxen Chair, Vincent Koch, certainly are going to come on and do a job there, Dan. Whether or not it's a dominating, I'm not too sure. Ox in particular has looked very, very strong at scrum time. But by no means this is a case where that front row comes on and dominates every single scrum, a couple of turnover balls. I don't think that's going to be the case this time around. Arcus Neyman, of course, has been phenomenal. What a unit to have coming off from your bench. But really what I want to talk about as we close out is Faf de Klerk and Andre Pollard. How much time do you see Kobus getting? And at the same time, how much time do you see Marnie getting? Do they both come off and come on as a pair?
Yeah, I think a lot of that depends on how the game's going, to be honest. For both, because the 5-3 and the decision of Quovis has shown a particular intent and a strategy from the Springboks. If that's not working, I think we go back to that kicking game very quickly, and that's what then Faf and Andre will provide, right? Okay, that didn't work. We're now going to start, throwing bombs up, trying to win that ball up in the air, get penalties in their half, kicking for goal. And maybe if it's a 10-point deficit, just try to chip away at it. I do think the Springboks are very bad when behind. So I worry. I'll be very worried if that there is that trigger reaction. But yeah, I think it's totally dependent on how the game plan that we've set out to take against the French works and what they retaliate with.
100%. Carl, I've got a comment here from Kanisa Nofeletti. He says, I don't prefer Koch over Trevor. It's a weird change. And I actually think he has a point now that I start to look in hindsight. In my opinion, that Ox and Trevor combo in particular has been so strong for such a long time. Vincent Koch is no mug, but Trevor is an animal when it comes to scrum time, right?
Yeah, I for me, I prefer Koch in the loose as a runner. And I think again they'll use their bench depending on how they see the French bench moving. I don't think they'll bring them on before France make a change. But I don't know. I actually prefer Koch. I think he's I suppose I would say he's more of a all-round prop rather than very specific. Right, I'm just here to scrum. And personally, I don't like players that are like that. Like being an England supporter, it's painful. I hate the fact that Dan Cole is still playing rugby because literally all he does is get into a scrum, bend down, and that's like, yeah, okay, I've done my job for however long. But you can't, especially against a French side like this. You need dynamism, and I think I would argue Koch has more of it.
Yep, absolutely. Right. So, of course, we hope that Andre gets his game time and that he does well, but also just that he supports the role that Marty is playing, which I'm sure he already is doing in the background there. Guys, I'd like to thank you very much for your time today, and thank you so much everyone for your comments. Even Revenger, we don't care if you're a Kiwi supporter or not. You're more than welcome in our chat, and you can have whatever opinion you want as long as it's respectful. But guys, let's put our money where our mouths are and say that based purely off the squad, we have not seen the French squad as of yet. Scalzi, are you happy with the squad? 1, 2, can the squad do the job against a full-strength French team?
I'm going to go yes and yes. I don't think it's risky because it's not what we know. And that's always going to ruffle some feathers and there's going to leave a lot of question marks. But I do think we couldn't just keep hammering at something that I wasn't necessarily fit to the situation we're in. So I like that we're trying to innovate. I'm worried. I do think we'll win though. Box by 1.
Box by 1.
World Cup classic.
I'll tell you what, if we go box by 1, you will not see me at work on Monday. Carl, same question to you. Is this the squad that you're happy with or are happy with? And 2, can the squad do the job against a full-strength French team?
For a shootout like this game, yeah, there's elements of risk and safety. I think I would have made a few changes to the bench, but I'm also back, so what do I know? I think yes, it is probably the best side. They considering all the different things we've talked about, I think it's probably the best side they could have put out. Yes, they can beat France. I don't think they will, but they certainly can. I back France, like I said last night, 27-18.
27-18.
But
Right.
I'm
Well,
always wrong.
fortunately, Carl kind of dampening the spirits there a little bit, but that's only fair. Personally, I think again the box probably just cuts it. I think maybe 3 to 5 points. I think it's going to be incredibly tight. It could go either way. We certainly respect this French side and what they're capable of at home. New Zealand refs, you never know what happens on the day. So, but guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you to everyone who's laid a comment down for us. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. We of course put out so much rugby content, it's not even funny. But we are only where we're at because of your support. So please do consider tuning in. Of course, tune in for the watch-alongs if you haven't already. On the weekend, where we will be covering every single game and offering you another way to enjoy the entertainment. Guys, thank you very much for your time. Please do consider, of course, checking out the rest of our shows, checking out our sponsors in Boyle Sports and BitDefender. If you haven't already, go lay a bet down at Boyle Sports. Go check out the Crow Tips Betting Show with Chris, also on the channel. He is making money for absolutely everybody. Guys, thank you very much. If you've ever got any questions for me, please do drop me a message on Instagram at Reason the Rumbler, and I will be more than happy to answer it for you the next time I am on the channel. Guys, have a fantastic day. I will see you again very, very soon. Cheers for now.
Cheers, guys.